Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Paul Carruthers here. This is Off Track with Carruthers and Bice, MotoAmerica's weekly motorcycle racing podcast. Obviously, we speak mostly about MotoAmerica, and today's exactly like that. We've got, as you can see there at the bottom of the screen, Josh Herrin, who finished second in the MotoAmerica Superbike Championship this year on his Warhorse HSBK Ducati. First of all, and I can't forget Sean Bice up there. For God's sakes, I'll get in trouble if I forget old Shawnee. But that's all right. Josh, before anything else, how was your Christmas? I mean, it's the perfect age for a kid like Griffin to have Christmas.
Yeah, that was honestly the best part. You know, it's neat. It's like he doesn't know what toys are coming or expect anything, but just being at that age where he's excited about opening a present and you know, it's neat. We got him a bicycle. Like, he's obviously been on a Strider, and he rides an electric Stasic already, so he knows how to use the throttle and everything, but he got his first pedal bike, so it's kind of neat, you know, just seeing him try to relearn something and pick it up. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And the Strider bikes work so well for that, you know, because once they pick their feet up, they're effectively balancing, and then all they got to do is figure out the pedaling. But that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but now he's like, pedals? What are pedals? Like, you already learned the throttle, so it's like, why do I need to learn pedals?
Right. Yeah, I could just be lazy the rest of my life now.
Yeah, exactly.
Has he had any big crashes or anything? Because I remember when my son was little, but mostly my daughter, she had more crashes than my son because she wasn't quite as skilled. But man, I'd be watching him and I'd be scared the whole time. And then, you know, you kind of get over it a bit. But has he had any big ones yet?
Yeah, not since Christmas, but there's a pump track down the street from us, like an asphalt pump track. It's really neat. We bought a house out in like Lake Elsinore, Temecula area, and they have a free pump track out here, so the kids can just go and ride. And he had his normal bicycle helmet on and fell like face first in like the asphalt berm and it's happened a couple times. So now he's in a full face and now I watch him and I feel like he can just go do whatever he wants to do because he's in a full face, and it feels so much better. But yeah, he's had some big falls already.
The other question, I saw you got a new bicycle, but I couldn't tell what it is.
I got the SL7. So yeah, Roy's hooked me up. They've been taking care of me for a while. It's a bicycle shop in Upland, California, and so this year's gonna be a little bit more road riding just because I'm not living right behind the awesome mountain bike rides that I was doing before. But I'll still be doing them. But it's just a lot easier to just pedal out of the garage from here on the road bike. So
yeah, that's kind of my deal too. I'm pretty close to mountain biking, but it's nothing like just taking off and, you know.
Yeah, I definitely miss that.
Yeah.
Like the place I was in before was awesome for that.
Yeah, for some reason I feel safer on a road bike by myself because if something happens out in the hills, I don't know if anyone will find me, but at least if I'm if I'm on the road, the guy that hit me will know, you know?
That's true. Yeah, I did my like kind of first ride on the road bike the other day, and like just knowing that like Rachel could get a hold of me or I could get a hold of Rachel if I needed to versus being on the mountain bike, that was nice. But yeah, I had a couple close calls already. I'm like, dude, like this is exactly why I started riding my mountain bike.
I know. It can be a little bit sketchy. All right, Sean, what do you got for him?
Josh, did you go back to Georgia at all for the holidays? Do you go back?
No. I mean, you know how it is. Once you get to a certain age, it's I don't know why it happens, but it just I don't know. It's different. But I talked to my mom. Obviously, I'm still super close to everybody, and they go to a lot of the races. It's not for any reason other than just life is busy. But I talked to my mom the other day about like really trying to push the Herrin compound stuff again, and so I'm gonna go and do probably like 2 or 3 schools out there, like do some group schools with somebody like PJ or something like that, and then also I'm trying to plan to do some supermoto stuff again. So maybe trying to put on like 2 events, one West Coast, one East Coast, and do the East Coast one out there. So we'll, be doing a lot more at the compound. So I'll be out there a lot this year, but yeah, I didn't go out there for the holidays.
Boy, that's got to be hard. I mean, I was thinking from my point of view, just with Griffin at the age he's at, and your mom and your sister and your brothers, I mean, they probably want to see him, don't they?
Yeah, but that's the cool thing about the races, right? That they get to go to
Right.
so many of the races that they get to see them throughout the year where they normally wouldn't. So but I do miss it. I wish that they were out here, or, I'd like to say I wish I was out there, but I love where I'm at. But, it'd be
Right.
nice if we were all closer at least. Just for Griffin, like just him being able to hang out with his uncles and his aunt and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I miss the most for sure. But, yeah, like I said, this year I'm gonna make more time, especially now that he's at the age where we can travel easy with him and he knows what's going on. Like it'll be nice to bring him on trips like that. So
Yeah. Does Zoe run the Herrin compound now or have something to do with it? It seems like she's always there, right?
yeah, her and my mom run it basically. I
Okay.
mean, Zoe does like all the social media stuff for it and answers a lot of the emails and stuff like that. And then my mom just does the day-to-day stuff there. But it's still a really small family kind of operation. It's more like, your local little mom and pop sandwich shop than it is like a, you know, I don't know, Pittsburgh go-kart complex or something like that.
Okay.
Have you ever had a situation? Well, I'm sorry, Paul. I got
No,
one
you
more
go,
question.
go.
So we've experienced so many tracks lately that have repaved. Have you ever had to repave that track?
I had to do the last time that I did something, it was like $20,000, and it was just like fixing like some small spots on the track that, whenever we originally built that place, it was 2008. So it's been 15 years or so. And the guy that cleared the land, he just buried the stumps. Problem with burying stumps is when you fill the dirt in around them, it settles over time, and then that creates the potholes. So now we have like these spots on the track that just keep happening. So what we really need to do is dig out a bigger chunk, concrete it in, pack it in concrete, gravel, and then put the asphalt. So I think that's part of the reason I'm going to go do some schools out there so we can raise some money and try to get that place, back in good shape and ready for some good events. Because I see, even stuff with MotoAmerica, like going to some kart tracks and stuff, and I'm like, man, it'd be really nice with me being active on the schedule and still a competitive superbike rider, like also hosting some events at our own track. It just wouldn't make sense. So I want to try to get that place back into good form and ready for stuff like that if opportunities come.
Yeah, and they're trying to make the mini cup a little more regional, so it's more affordable for
Yep.
kids to do the races and then go to a grand championship or whatever they're going to call it. But
Yep.
yeah, there's no reason why a place like yours couldn't host one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about we're assuming that you're staying on the same team for next year, which I know is what you wanted, and I know it's what you're looking forward to because having the stability of having riding the same bike and all that stuff. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I've had, basically every year going into the race season with these guys with the HSBK and with the Naples, like basically the conversation at the beginning of every year is like, hey, don't worry about next year. Like you're good for next year also. But with that being said, it's kind of like I just do whatever they want me to do. And when it comes down to it, if they want me to go race a bagger, I'll race a bagger. If they want me to race Daytona or a super sport bike, like that's what I'll do. So I think everything is still like a little bit up in the air, and you guys will find out whenever a press release comes out. But I'm for sure going to be with that team again and racing in MotoAmerica. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we wonder about with the team. One of the things we thought when this Ray Hall Moto Ducati team came out and with the V2 and Super Sport, we weren't sure if the team was, if HSBK Warhorse was even going to have a team in Super Sport, if it was going to be all in on Superbike, and then if the assumption is you're in Superbike, whether you have a partner, a teammate. Of course, we don't know any of that, so we'll be looking forward, and we know you guys will do a big announcement when it happens. But Josh, I want to ask you. So actually, Paul brought this up. We were talking about how long it's been. Have you ever had 2 years on the same bike? And I know you did with Yamaha and Yamaha at one point, but it was
Yeah,
a long
that's
time ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, that's the last time was 2013. We did 2012 was my rookie year on the Superbike, and then 2013 was the year that we won the title. So it's
Yes.
something that I really want to happen, and I've voiced that to the team. That's the last time, and it's been over 10 years now since I've been on the same bike, same team, 2 years in a row with the same crew. And it's frustrating. Like as a racer, I don't think people understand like how important that is. If Petrucci would have had a second year on not just on these tracks, but on the same bike, same team, or Baz or whoever, like it's a big deal. And even though I know the tracks, like just learning the bike and doing gearing at every track different than what the rider the year before had, and just working with the same guys and feeling like that confidence on Friday morning to be able to just go and push it because you know what the bike is going to do at that track. It's huge. So yeah, that's what I'm really hoping that we can do that again. And I look at somebody like PJ who maybe in 2022 struggled a little bit on the Tyler's bike, but then the second year on the bike, he was able to get his first win and he was at the front all the time. So I think that goes to show like what a second year can do, or even Gagne, the first year on the attack bike versus the second year. Obviously, he's a great rider. He dominated the second year on the bike, but the first year he was a podium guy. He wasn't a winner. So I think it's important to try to get that for sure.
Man, I think you can cite that in so many cases. I think Cameron Bobier was the same way, because I remember talking to Rick Hobbs about you, and it had been 2 years that you had won it in your second year. And I think that was the same thing with Cameron too, that he did the same thing. And I possibly JD and Supersport at one point did the same thing. The one thing I wonder, when you went from Supersport on the V2 to Superbike on the V4R, I know your team changed quite a bit. David Bayren was your crew chief on the V2, but did you have a totally different crew last year?
Yeah, we had totally different guys. Like Dave Barron, Fuzzy, and Cody were my guys on the V2. Simone helped with data on the V2 course, and at Daytona, they were all involved. So I worked with them and was obviously close with them the whole year. But as far as working on the bike, yeah, we had different crew. This year we had Danny, Logan, and Simone were all the main guys. So it was, different crew. Like I said, it was kind of like going from the 600 to the Superbike when I was a Yamaha, right? I knew everybody, and I'd been around them the year before. But yeah, working with them on my bike, it was different. So and it worked out perfectly. Danny was awesome. He was for sure on the fence about me because of the training. So I think I made him happy this year. Me and Logan had our run-ins in 2017 when I was going up against Claudio Corti on the Aprilia, because he was working with Bobby's team back then, and we got into it at Laguna at the last race. So we had some beef going into this year, but it was great. I had fun working with all the guys, and it was a lot of fun and super good crew.
Okay, so you won twice, as I mentioned at the top of the show, and you had 12 podiums total. Is that a good year for you, or did you leave like wanting a bit more? I mean, we always want to win more, but I mean, realistically, how did you feel about it?
I'm like on the fence about it. I was stoked about it, but at the same time, like there was a couple races that I just feel like I could have done a little bit better. Road Atlanta was a bummer whenever we had the like brake pad thing going into 10A, 10B. Because I really feel like that would have been like first weekend on the bike. We could have won a race. That was cool. And then the Ridge, man, I go back to the Ridge a lot whenever I'm just thinking about the year. And I wanted pole so bad that weekend. I went into it telling them like I'm crashing or I'm getting pole. And I had pole by half a second. And I just was like, all right, now let's go out on a Q tire. So I went out on the Q tire. And the first split, I was 0.3 up on my best time, which would have just by the first split would have put me 0.8 up on second place. So I had it wrapped up, and that crash, it really set us back. And I was able to fight through it, but it set me back a lot more than what I talked about this year. And it was just a bummer because I think that it was almost like we had to start over with everything. And the last two rounds, it felt pretty good. Coda, we did really well. Jersey it was wet. It was Jersey like it always is. And it was just kind of like up in the air whether we would do good or not. But I would say with Daytona and the 2 wins and with my fitness being where it was, I was really happy with how the year went. But like you said, you're always going to leave wanting more. And I think a second year on the Superbike would be where I would get the results that I really wanted this year. So, but I would say I was happy with this year.
You brought up the Ridge, and it makes me question, like, how important is it really to have pole position? Is it mainly a psychological edge for you over your opponents and a confidence thing with yourself? Because I mean, you're talking about a couple of feet on the front row, so is it worth it?
Yeah, for me it's always the psychological part of it, having an advantage and going into the race like with the team or other teams, like thinking, wow, Josh is like doing really good right now, right? Like you want to be the fastest guy. Mentally for myself, like I want to know that I'm the quickest guy. And I always felt pretty good in qualifying, the last 2 years, just on the Ducati in general. Like I've felt good doing those one lap runs. And so I kind of had something to prove to myself. And I struggled so much this year on Saturday races compared to Sunday races that it was because we had so much work to do to get the bike comfortable for me on Friday that then we'd be kind of behind the 8 ball just the whole weekend. And Sunday is when we'd really shine. And those races where I had the confidence to like just go fast with the bike, I wanted to be able to just push as hard as I could because it's been so long since I felt comfortable enough on a bike to like really push the envelope and go a little bit harder than what felt comfortable. So that was really what I was trying to do, is just see like how fast can I go on this thing, because I know the bike's good. And as I got more and more comfortable, it was just that, like, I mainly just wanted to see like, man, I'm not getting any moments. Like, can I push it harder? Can I push it harder? And yeah, I wouldn't even say that I found the limit at the ridge. It was just that turn, how it drops off as you're grabbing the brakes. It's going to happen sometimes. So I really never found the limit on that bike this year up until Coda. I took the front in qualifying also. And it just helps, like being able to know like where the edge is, right, with the tire and with the bike, how hard I can go, trail into the corners.
Sean, I got one more on this for him.
Okay.
When I watched Petrucci on the bike, it looked like it was like just he's a big beastie guy anyway, but it seemed like it was a real beast to try to ride. And when I watch you on it, it doesn't look that way. Have you? What's the difference with that?
Having a good data guy is huge, but obviously we had the same data guy. Maybe my just communication with him was good, but also, I don't want to just put it all on myself. So I'm thinking a lot of it has to do with that, like Simone just really understanding how I want the bike to be. But being in the like physical condition that I was this year made me not have to like ride like that, if that makes sense. Like I could kind of just ride at 95% and be good, right? And then like that extra 5% in qualifying or the last lap of the race, you could go and feel comfortable on the bike. But before, my 95% was like kind of out of control, where now I could ride at 95% and like still be in control of the bike. So I think that was a huge thing. That probably, I'd have to say that was like the biggest thing for me. And then of course Simone, just the guys just setting the bike up really well, and having 2 years now with that exact bike, that helped a lot setup wise.
I want to ask about that crash at Ridge. Again, Josh, gosh, that was terrible. And even Stefano Mesa's was ridiculous too. You guys had some pretty gnarly crashes. One of the things we don't know when you guys crash is we don't really know truly what happened, how bad you were hurt. Can you tell us what actually happened in terms of physically?
Yeah, I had, so I forget what it's called, but I had some type of, something in my shoulder that it was basically like sticking up, and then it kept getting caught whenever, like, I thought it was like a rotator cuff, but it ended up being that there was something going on to where it was, when I was trying to rotate it, it was getting caught on it. So that was where all the pain was coming from. And what made it really hard, and Pridmore was talked about it, especially at Laguna, he noticed it. I was having to kind of like straight arm on the brakes because I didn't have the strength. Like if I was kind of braking with my arm slightly bent, I didn't have the strength. I couldn't hold it. So I had to just lock my arm out on the brake. So that was like one of the hardest things. But then I had fractured bones in my ankle. So that obviously wasn't good. Lots of swelling, and rolled it really bad. So it was just a lot of crap going on. Hurt my neck in the crash, and didn't see anything on MRIs, but it just never really felt good. up until, like I said, right around Coda is when I really started to feel 100%. But then the problem was that because I was in so much pain, I couldn't train. So I lost, the physical condition that I was in. Like I lost all that strength trying to let everything heal. So by the time my body healed, then I was, I would say, let's say at Daytona, I was at 100% physically, like as far as my endurance goes and strength and all that. I would say by the time my body healed, I was down to like 75%. So that last little bit that I really needed was gone. That edge that I had at the beginning of the year, halfway through the year on everybody, um, it was gone. So that's what really affected me at the end of the year. That was a bummer. It wasn't as much the injury as it was just losing that physical condition.
Do you feel pretty good, close to 100% now, you think?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I haven't this like kind of December, you start like kind of training hard again. That's
Right.
well, that's how you always should be at least. I obviously stayed in shape, but you start kind of really pushing hard in December again. And I've been able to do that. So I feel like, yeah, I'm there. I'm not what I was at Daytona, but I'm close to it. I'm definitely a lot better than I was at the end of the season.
Well, I remember when you were with Yamaha, I was on the team with you. You had that other shoulder injury, flat tracking, and you had to have it cabled and everything else. Was that your other shoulder?
Yeah, this was my actually wait, the one that got messed up. Yeah, no, this is the left one still. But I've injured them both so many times now since then. I mean, let's see, the first time I messed it up, I had a AC, it was like a separation. So I had like a grade 4 separation, so that was bad. I had to do the tightrope system, and then I crashed on it again and broke the bone off where the hole was for the tightrope. So I had to get a plate put in, and then I had the plate removed because it was causing a lot of pain. And then I've had since then now I have like yeah, just some little injuries that are always lingering, but it's normal. I think it's just I'm almost 34 now, so I'm starting to feel things that I didn't feel when I was 25, and yeah, so I try to take a little bit better care of my body now. That's for sure.
Now I know you like doing this. Would you do this like as long as Josh Hayes if that opportunity presents itself?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think you look at I that's somebody that I always look at when I look at longevity. As long as the sport is healthy, my goal is to be racing at least until I'm 45. So I got another 10 to 12 years. I think I don't know how old Josh was when he won his first Superbike title in what was that 2009 or 10. But
Yeah,
he was
10.
about my age right now when he won his first Superbike race. So
Right.
if you look at it like that, and I would say my body's in a lot better shape than his was at that age. I mean, he's gotten beat up with a lot of hard crashes. So if I take care of myself, and bikes being advanced now with helping you not have those big crashes, and having stuff like the tech airbag and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that I get at least another 10 years for sure.
Sean and I are just hoping to live that long.
Yeah, Josh. Well, listen, you know what you're talking about. I just did the math. I know that Hayes was born in 75, so he was 35 when he won his first championship. So yeah, I could see you going
Yeah.
for a long time, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I told Faraci and Bobby this year, I'm a cockroach. I just keep coming back. I know everybody wants me gone, but I just keep coming back. I'll keep coming back.
So I think I may have asked you this on a previous podcast or face to face sometime, but now that it's been a couple of years, I want to ask you again this question. So you raced for a really long time on inline 4-cylinder engines, high revving engines, and then you went on to a V2 and now a V4. And the configuration of the engine is so different, the engine characteristics, the torque. What do you think of that engine now? Do you really like it? Have you acclimated to it? And is it something you really think you can how do I put it, dominate with? Let's say that.
I think, it was weird. Like I had such a weird feeling going into the Super Sport year because I was like, man, I had rode a Ducati once before. I think I rode like a 1299 at Coda, maybe like in between seasons, like going into 2019. And it was like somebody's bike that they had done like club racing on. They had crashed it. Who knows who worked on it? And from my experience of riding that, I was nervous because I wasn't comfortable on that bike. But when I got on the V2, I felt this something different than I'd ever felt. Like I felt like my riding style coming out of the corners, I'd always fought the bike so much and it moved around so much. And the V2 and the V4 both like have helped me somehow with not being that rider. I'm able to like drive out of the corners smooth and not have those problems. So that's like one of the biggest reasons why I really enjoy riding it. And it's beautiful. I mean, like I love the way that those things look. I love the way that they sound when you get a full exhaust on them. They're just so much fun to look at, so much fun to ride. And I hope so bad that I get another opportunity to race this same bike again, because I think that for whatever reason, I'm a really good fit with a Ducati. And I don't know if that's just a lot of people and they just haven't experienced that yet, but this bike's easy to ride and it's super fast and super smooth. It does everything that I want it to do. I enjoy riding the V4S at track days. I mean, yeah, I enjoy it. I think that's one of the biggest things is 2018, I enjoyed riding, and being on that team I was on. And this team, the last 2 years and on the Ducati, like I feel that, but even more. Like I'm super confident with it. And yeah, the engine is awesome. I mean, I got nothing to complain about it. And it's, does everything I want it to do. It's fast and like I said, helps me with that kind of weird, out of control look that I usually have driving out of corners.
All right, you can tell me if I'm wrong, and I've been wrong before, maybe once or twice. But if I think of you, I think of Josh Herrin a lot of times being overly focused, and I don't think this was the case this past year. But you might be able to tell me I'm wrong on that too. But that would admit you're wrong, so we'll see. But like I always think of you like getting sometimes so caught up in the mini battle, and that mini battle could be for fifth, that you lose out on the bigger picture of being in the war. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think I just get in my own head a lot of times more than that's like I battle myself more than I battle anybody else. And whenever that's what's weird too, is like some of the races, and I've talked about this before, where I have those like crazy good races that I never can repeat, or when I'm like super afraid to go out on the track. And I've realized that what happens is whenever I have that feeling, I get rid of all of the shit going around in my head, because all I can think about is how scared shitless I am to go out on the track right now. And then I ended up doing really good because of that. So I've tried to like find that, like I've really the last year like tried to focus like what am I feeling in those instances that I could basically replicate and make that just a normal feeling. And that's what I've been trying to focus on. So yeah, I would say you're right. Like most of the times I'm just overthink things. I wouldn't say I'm over focused. I think a lot of teams and team owners would argue with you about that because they wish that I maybe focus a little bit better at the track. But I focus too much on the dumb stuff that I shouldn't be focusing on instead of just riding. Well,
you're focused on
that's when I struggle.
It seemed like you're focused on beating Jimmy for seventh instead of, and you're fast enough to be racing the guy for third, but you're getting hell bent on beating Jimmy, and obviously Jimmy's fictional, but you know what I mean? A
lot of times I end up thinking about the show, like a lot of times like that. I think that's what it is like I have fun, or like say me and Wyman at like Pittsburgh, like when I was with Scheibe, like I might have been able to get on the podium that day if I wasn't messing around with Kyle.
Exactly.
But I was having so much fun messing around with Kyle that it was like, and if you look back at it now, like we put on a good show. So would I really have, like, if I would have got third that day, would it have mattered in anybody's minds, or would the battle with Kyle for fourth have been the show and everybody talks about it for a couple of years or whatever? So, but there are days, where I'm like, I should have just not cared about what happened earlier in the race or earlier in the weekend and just focused on the riding. But yeah, that's part of it, right? Like at the end of my career, I want to be able to look back and be stoked on things. So I think this is my time in my career to like really focus and just worry about trying to win races. And going back to, I know we already talked about it, going back to the Hayes story, it's like he didn't, like Sean said, didn't start winning Superbike races till he was 35. So I think I still got a lot of time to really, kind of hone in on what I want to do and make the best of it in the last 5-10 years that I got.
I think it's pretty cool that you point out that you enjoy what you're doing. You love the look of the bike. I mean, you're a motorcyclist. A lot of things about the bike beyond just racing it itself is something that you enjoy. The whole thing is something you enjoy, and that's something that clearly makes you a fan favorite. We know that. You're kind of like one of the guys in that respect, right?
I would probably say different than what you just said, because I find myself a lot of times wishing that I just enjoyed motorcycles a little bit more than I do.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes, because it's been a job for so long, I don't have like that drive to, all my buddies are going to ride. I want to go ride with them. And I want it. Like, it's like one of those things, right? Like, I feel like out of my skin sometimes, where I'm like, I don't really want to be going riding today, but I know I should be stoked to go ride today, right? Like, I get that feeling a lot. But when I'm racing, like when the red light goes out and I'm racing and I'm on a bike that like I feel comfortable on, it's like it's the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. Like that's why I race. I race because I love that feeling of battling with somebody all the way till the last second, and not knowing if, whenever I drive out of the chicane at Daytona and I plan this whole last lap and maybe I gave Hayes too much of a lead, but I think it'll work, and not knowing until that like split second, right, where the start finish line is, like that adrenaline rush that I could come in and say like the meanest thing ever and not even remember it because I'm like almost like blacked out. Like, that feeling is why I race. And I love motorcycles, and I love talking motorcycles, and I love seeing people enjoy bikes. And I love, to be honest, like one day I want to be like a manager or just something like that, because I love seeing other people succeed on bikes almost as much as I love seeing myself or succeeding, on a bike. But like my passion with bikes is the social media stuff behind it, the sponsorship side of things, and trying to help other riders get sponsorships and the merchandise. Like, that's like my passion, other than the racing part. I would say that's why I really like bikes, is all that stuff. And then when I get to go race and have fun like that, that's the best. But that's very rare when you feel those moments.
So I have to ask you, Paul, I got to ask him this. You're defending Daytona 200 champion. Maybe you're not going to tell us, but are you going to race the Daytona 200 this year?
That's something I can honestly say that I don't know. I've told the team I really want to. I love that race. I mean, it's one of those things, right, where it's like normally you have like a 40-minute race, but that race is whatever it is, 1.5 to 2 hours long. It's like a team thing, right? There's so much hype built up around it, and there's something special about that place. Like, win or lose, like going there and racing, just being able to be drafting like that and that close to the wall, and it's special. So I really hope that I can, especially now that I've won it again, and it's cool to hopefully get to go and try to defend that win. And yeah, I hope so, because I would say out of any race that I've ever done, that's the one I have the most fun doing. And it seems like people enjoy to come out and spectate that race, like friends and family and sponsors. They all want to come there. So, yeah, I really hope so.
Okay, I want to ask you something. That Road Atlanta thing on the last lap, I mean, if you watch that, like, the more you watch it, the scarier it is, because even though you know what's happening and everyone's going to come out of it okay, you still can't believe that it does work out that well. When that happened, did you honestly think like, man, this is big trouble, or were you it happened so fast you just react?
No, as soon as I got that head shake, I knew, because right when I got the head shake, that's right at where you're going to grab the brakes. But, when you're in these situations, you can't assume that the brakes aren't going to be there. I can't just be like, oh, maybe my brakes aren't going to be there, let me pump my brakes. Like, no, this is my job. There's let's say 20 grand on the line for that race for us, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. And it's the first weekend on the Ducati, and I could come away with a win. Like, I'm gonna look like a big puss if I just roll off right now and try to grab brakes, like just to make sure they're there. So I'm not doing that. I'm going in like hoping that they're there, right? I hope that somehow these brakes are still here when I know 9 times out of 10 those things are gone. And I was scared shitless, but I knew I had to just go for it. And I had, maybe, I don't know what percentage of brakes. I'm sure if we pulled up the data, you could see what actual bar I was able to grab. But I had, like I said in the video, like I grabbed the brakes normally, which for me on the Ducati is one finger, so I use the middle finger only. So the brake lever went all the way to my fingers, and it was just barely skimming the brakes. Like, I wasn't slowing down a lot, so I had to re-grip, grab the brakes with all 4 fingers, and went all the way to the grip. I'm like, holy crap, I'm downshifting as fast as I can to just try to get the thing to slow down as much as I can. And for a second there, or a second, I say a second, it was when it happens, it seems like it's 10 seconds, but
Right.
it was milliseconds. I was like, I just closed my eyes and just kind of braced myself, right? It was like a movie, like just brace for impact. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And somehow in my eyes, and I'm like going into the grass. I'm like, holy shit. I can't believe that just happened. I was able to make it through that. And no matter how many times you replay it and show people, if you've never been in that situation, you just don't understand. But everything lined up perfectly. Like, if I could get a remote and pause that moment right as I was splitting Gagne and Beaubier, and I just tried to push my bike through that gap, I don't think it would have even made it through the gap. It would have touched. So it's we all got really lucky that day. I'm not a religious person. I'm not religious, but I'm just not a religious person. But someone was looking after me that day, and everybody else that was around me, and it was one of those 1 in a billion chances of that happening again. So it was pretty nuts.
And it was kind of funny because Wayne Rainey obviously has a trained eye when it comes to that, and he realized right away exactly what had happened. Maybe it's happened to him, or maybe he just knew with the head shake and all that's what occurred, because he had no question right away that's what it did. So it's a cool
crazy.
moment to look back on now.
Yeah, it is. But I wish I would have got the win. I felt like that was one of my best chances of getting a win last year, and it's cool to look at. But it's like, man, I get so angry when I watch it, because it was there's so much emotion. Like, even watching the video that we posted to the OnlyFans video page, whatever, it's like I see, like, I was so gutted. Like, I came in like crying like a baby, and Faraci's hugging me, and I'm just like, man, like, in that moment, I'm like, this could be one of my only chances that I could have won a race this year. Like, I don't know. And, I've never have been, at least, a Beaubier or a Hayes or Mladen, a Spies, like the guys that just dominated and won race after race after race. I've never been that guy. And I hope that it happens someday. That's why I look at Hayes as inspiration. Like, maybe my time just hasn't come, right? And so I hope it does, but in reality, I haven't been one of those guys. So when I get a win, it means a lot to me, because I've only been able to get, a couple here and there. So, I was gutted in the moment whenever I didn't get that, and it meant so much. And it was such a fun race though. And I think that was like one of those at the beginning of the season when I think so many people were still like, why did you guys give this guy this ride? And I wanted so bad to get a win, and to be able to do it on the first weekend would have meant so much. So it was just a lot going through my head at that moment. I was definitely feeling lucky though.
So I have to ask you, Josh, about something that recently took place at Jennings. So recently I did an interview with PJ Jacobson. We did a print interview, and we sat down and had a good conversation. We talked a little bit about that, but I didn't really put it in the story. I cannot think of two human beings that are more different than you and PJ Jacobson. But you mentioned in the thing, you guys got into a grudge match around down there. Are you guys buds now? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, it's weird. So I've always been a fan of PJ. I've never had anything negative to say about him. I've always liked watching him race. We started racing together in 2010 or 11, I think. And then he went and raced BSB and then World Supersport, whatever. But Bobby is close with PJ,
Right.
and I started talking to him because of Bobby this year. I've talked to him before, obviously, but I've never been close with him. And so he would come over and talk, and we'd kind of like, shoot the shit a little bit, shit talk on each other a little bit. And me and his filmer, Dustin Ishikura, who's Fast Glass Media, he did a lot of filming at the Herrin compound. So my mom had always told me like how awesome of a guy he was, and I need to talk to him. Dustin always thought I hated him because I never collaborated on his Instagram videos. But the main reason I didn't collaborate with him on his Instagram videos is because I didn't want to bum my video guy out by posting his video guy's content. So it just was a thing, right? And me and Dustin started playing Xbox together, so we've gotten really close now. So naturally, me and PJ are just going to be a little bit closer because now we both talk to this guy the same, every day basically. And so me and PJ, like you said, we are totally different. And I think I freak him out a lot of times because I do like a lot of like, I don't know, like just weird stuff around him, and he gets a little sensitive. But we actually have, I would say, become pretty good friends and have a lot in common. And I think we'll probably do a lot of coaching together. We'll probably do another one of those grudge matches on the West Coast, but kind of plan it out a little bit better this time, do a little bit more video around it and have some fun with that. And he's a cool guy. I hope he does good on the V2, but I also hope I can race him at Daytona and show him what's up. So
that'd be cool. So you guys, just real quick, so you guys raced like 6 laps down at Jennings were they Street Fighters or something?
Yeah, we had stock Street Fighter V2s with just whatever tires come stock on the bike, I think. And yeah, we had fun. We basically, I went into it and I was like, dude, you're gonna smoke me. Like, this is your track. We were coaching people all day, so we didn't have like practice going into it. And so we kind of like made a deal that we were gonna like ride together, put on a show for like the all the laps, and then the last lap just kind of go for it. So that's what we did, and he ended up beating me to the line, and we had a good time. It was great. Everybody there was stoked about it, and that's something that I've been wanting to put together last, I don't know, 4 years. I reached out to Travis Pastrana at one point and wanted him to include Superbikes at Nitro Circus when they were at Utah up at Utah Motorsports Campus. Or wow. I was thinking of Miller Motorsports Park, right? But doing like 1v1 races and having like just a little jump that you would take off of and kind of like planning out like how the race goes, like a wrestling match, and then the last lap doing like a hard, push for the win. So it was cool to kind of see it play out and like do one. And now I'm like really motivated to try and do stuff like that and do like my goal would be to do like some type of, racers racing against each other, but then also like influencers. You have so many influencers now that there's beef online with this street guy and this street guy. So showing up to track days and doing races like that against each other, like just trying to like do something different, because I think, as we all know, it's hard to promote road racing in the US. Like it's just been a difficult thing to do. And I think there just needs to be some new different things, and the King of the Baggers kind of help that out. And just doing this like stuff like this 1v1 thing, or me doing my street content or whatever it is, like just trying to do different things that bring new fans in that have never seen our sport before, like an entryway into MotoAmerica type of thing. So I try to do that as much as I can in different ways. And a lot of people don't agree with everything that I do, but there's a reason why I do it. And it's not just to get clicks for myself. I'm trying to build the sport that, has given me a career my whole life, and I'm hoping it gives me a career for the next 10 years. So I'm always trying to think of different things that we could do, and that was really cool to get to go do that with the Ducati Tampa guys, and just hanging out with PJ and seeing that side of him was fun.
I'm really glad you did do that. Hey, Paul, I know we got to wrap. So real quick, Josh, I want to do a shout out to a guy on your team who I'm extremely fond of. the Wisconsin Ninja Farmer, Danny Danny Anderson, not Danny Sullivan. I love that guy. He's so terrific, and I know you've grown to know him and love him a lot too. He's really always thinking about making your bike fast. So tell us a little bit about Danny real quick before we get off.
Yeah, Danny, like I said earlier in the podcast, like I think he was a little against, I don't know how much, maybe a lot against me riding Superbike because he knows I'm just a little fatty and I like eating Snickers in the lobby of the hotels. I don't like training. And he was a big reason that, why I was motivated to go and train as much as I did this year because I wanted to prove him wrong. Especially after having Danilo Petrucci on the bike the year before me. I had not only the pressure of just being on the bike, but I have a MotoGP winner on the bike right before me is not exactly the easiest thing to step into. So I would say that me and Danny became really good friends and yeah, he's such a great guy. I mean, I just see him interacting with different people at the races and if I could be half as good of a guy as he is, I think we'll be all right. He's got this kind of hard shell on the outside of him, but once you get in there, he's super nice. So I always like that.
Yeah, great. All right, well, great, Josh. Thanks for being on. I don't know, we'll maybe have to do it again, or at least we're going to get your announcement about what your team's doing this year. Obviously, you guys are going to be going racing in some ways, so we'll find out if you're in Superbike, if you're going to have a teammate, if you're going to do the 200. Lots to find out from your team. Warhorse, HSBK, Ducati, New York City. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep. Bye.